He Scoffed the Gough is the title of this, probably because Ezekiel heard me say Go Street, because I don't know how to pronounce things like that. He corrects me when I say the names of the streets wrong. He Scoffed the Gough is the title of this latest installment of Ezekiel Kralen's ongoing and interminable story about the two little dogs and the people who live in the street below his apartment. He wrote, email correspondence, July 9th, evening, 2023. It's 4 o'clock, KNYO LP, Fort Bragg. Subject, he returned a short while ago. Well, not such a short while anymore, since I've spent almost 3 hours to complete this missive. He appeared with a huge mound of recyclables, and Glob only knows what else stashed in a shopping cart. So elephantine. The bagged contents were almost a yard higher than the cart itself and swelled over both sides like it was 10 months pregnant. I'm not ready for the dogs. Just give me a cigarette. A cigarette and $3. I said, okay, but you've already gotten your entire allowance this month, and then told him it doesn't sound right or even legal for them to kick him out without notice. Do you want me to call the cops and have them get you back in there? I queried. Hell no, don't do that. I hate that place. Too much shit to deal with. Sidebar. Yeah, right, Watson. The trickster didn't want me to contact the SFPD because they'd look into it and I'd learn the truth, that he was not evicted. I suspect he just took off of his own free bipolar will. Once I told him I'm resuming the doggy sleepovers, the wheels started turning and he decided he could resume his street life because he wouldn't be stuck with the pups 24/7. The timing is way too wonky. One day I tell him the dogs can start visiting me again. The next he claims they kicked him out. Talk about being screwed over by an act of goodwill. But it's the hounds who have been truly screwed over, above and beyond yours truly, or maybe not. See how my perspective has morphed toward the end of this piece. Well, I'm worried about the dogs, Deke. They need their shelter. Nah, he scoffed. They've been perfectly fine out here with me all those months. Now give me a fucking cigarette. And $3. So I did, but before he vanished once again, I suggested nighttime only for the mutts. Though any time on Sunday is fine, and 3 days a week max, because if the landlord decides to check the lobby camera, if it's more frequent than that, I could get in trouble. Remember, I'm sitting dogs, not having them live with me. He smiled then, agreed to the arrangement. In fact, his demeanor was surprisingly cordial, not a smidgen of angst in his behavior. So, good doctor, I have to conclude that even if he's lying about the eviction, he desperately wants his freedom, and I understand perfectly. I'm sure that even the most liberal transitional shelters can be oppressive and even draconian sometimes and in some ways. And I know he's sick of being surrounded by fentanyl addicts. That toxic shit scares the bejesus out of him. Be that as it may, my regard for Flacco and Lucky ranks higher than it does for their master, so my concern for their well-being comes first, always. However, even with the tiny cabin, the dogs seemed to be outdoors as much as they were when he was on the streets and able to drop them off with yours truly, perhaps even more. In other words, the pups might be better off with this latest change in habitat. My conclusion, I commend Deke for giving 33 Gough his best shot, and I will tell him that. I'm sure something better will come along soon enough, that is, before the next rainy season inundates Baghdaddy by the Bay. Signed, Zeke K. Holmes. Addendum. After Deke told me the bad news this afternoon, and I turned toward the front gate, there was Jeffrey standing right outside, tapping away at his smartphone to release the lock. He is Mo Fleischer's. Jeffrey. He is Mo Fleischer's former roommate of many years, and I say former only because Mo, whom I call my quasi-fascist neighbor in my tales, unexpectedly passed away 6 months back, as you know. Obviously, Jeffrey decided to remain there in spite of his close friend's death. Now, all the years he's occupied 201, we've never spoken to each other except for a friendly greeting or nod of the head in passing. Perhaps Mo's dislike for me influenced Jeffrey, but I'm not really sure about that. At any rate, I never approached him after Mo kicked the bucket to express my sympathy. since I figured it's kinder just to remain silent, considering our non-association, but I always hoped to do some kind thing for him since its friend's death, and today opportunity came knocking, for I knew the 4-digit code, thanks to our temporary manager, Comely Cortez, revealing it to me last week. And why did he do that, you might ask? A hot tryst late at night and a favor exchanged? Oh, you do have quite the imagination, good doctor, but no, that's not at all how it happened. I discovered the gate lock had been jammed when attempting to enter my building last week, so the next day I informed Cortez via text that I can't enter the building without some other resident letting me in because Kevin never updated the intercom with my now 2-year-old new phone number, which is for the first smartphone I ever purchased. More on this in a later missive. Suffice it to say there are 2 ways to open the gate in addition to using the key. Smartphone, whereby you dial your own number, answer it, and press 9, and the gate will buzz you in. Or 4 digits, which code is known by all the workers who maintain the crumbling Hotel California North, along with a handful of Kevin's favorite tenants, also known as chosen ones. So I walked up to Jeffrey and addressed him. Better to use the 4-digit code. Fussing with a smartphone is a nuisance, especially when some crazy vagrant is nearby and you want to get away from him ASAP. He laughed at that, then lowered his phone, grinned at me. So you know the code? Yes, I happily conveyed. Ever since our handsome new manager gave it to me when the lock got jammed last week, and Kevin never updates the new number. He rolled his eyes knowingly when I mentioned Kevin. So here it is, I continued, 5030. He repeated the number, after which I noted correct, but be sure to punch the pound sign first, or should I call it the hashtag these days. I then proceeded up the stairs with Jeffrey a polite 8 steps behind. Once I reached the next floor, I paused by the short hall leading to my room as he turned left down the hallway to his own residence and called to him, 5030, burn it into your engrams. So that was great. Made me feel good so shortly after Deke's upsetting report. But it's even better than that, since I also gave the code to another tenant who let me inside, twice last year when I left my keys upstairs. I called up to his window at night, both times, asking if he could let me in. I finally returned the favor when I saw him attempt to insert the key with frustration 4 days ago. I did the same favor for his roommate a day later. To be continued.